I hope that you will not multitask now, leave anything you are doing, because this video, what I'm going to tell you, it is very important. If you are not a monotheist, you assume that you are monotheist. If you think that we are Muslim, but you have followed certain teachings, doctrines that it is contradictory to the teaching of Muhammad in the Quran, these might be the most important words, ideas that you will hear. I don't expect you to listen to me, to accept me because I am that great guy, which I don't give you any impression of such. As you see, I don't have around me some slaves around me who sit down like this, their head down, they revere me. In fact, I don't want to have any of those people who have been turned to sheep and robots. You will not have those people around me. You will have people around me who question, who think, who are Hawari. Hawari means those who converse, who discuss, like Socrates' friends, like Jesus' friends, Hawari, like Muhammad's nice Sahaba. There are kind of three kind of Sahaba in the Quran. Sahaba means friends. According to the Quran, there are some very polytheistic friends. There are some of friends who called him Majnun. The Quran says, وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. Your friend is not crazy. There are also some hypocrites among his friends. The Quran mentions those, but other teachings besides the Quran try to sanctify the word Sahaba as if Muhammad's friend, they were all holy, and many of them made heavens, and prophets knew about the future and stuff. This is, and you see, I don't have beard to give you the impression I am a holy man with my follicles, well-polished beard, or I don't have turban. The size of the turban, even the color. If I have black color, I make up a black color turban and claim that among my descendants there are some great people like prophets, as if it has any merit according to the Quran. There are children of prophets, parents of prophets who are polytheists. Even prophets cannot help those close relatives. But there are millions of people right now in Muslim world, they claim to be descendant of Prophet Muhammad. By this way, they want to promote their petty worldly interests in order to have some money or power over people, or turban. And thank God I don't have any of those. My name is Edip. You don't need to call me with any kind of ostentatious titles and stuff. I want to talk as a human being who think. Don't take my words based on what's my title, but based on whether it's true or not. You are as responsible as I am. Therefore, one of the verses of the Quran I want to remind you, maybe two of them. الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ وَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ. I am reciting in Arabic for two reasons. One, some people may want to find it in the Quran. They know Arabic. It helps them easy. And second, there are some Arab nationalists, unfortunately, they promoted the idea that in order to understand the Quran, you need to know Arabic. Therefore, if anyone doesn't know Arabic, they think that that person cannot understand the Quran, which is by this way, they really contradict the Quran, the message of the Quran for all humanity, regardless of their language. أعجمي وعربي. Whether it is Ajami, another foreign language, or Arabic, it doesn't matter. The Quran says it doesn't matter. It is in the heart of those who acknowledge the truth, those who know. I have friends who are from Britain. They are born in Britain. Their native language is British. They know a little bit Arabic after they converted to Islam. They studied the Quran. I have seen them. They studied the Quran. They use their God-given mind, the al-aql. They think, they question, and then they find errors in translation. In my own translation, they find errors. They show me. They don't know Arabic like I do. Therefore, Abu Jahl or Abu Lahab, those people who are famous in your history books, and look at them, they know Arabic. Most likely they know Arabic better than you do. The Arabic especially used in the Quran, Al-Fusha, the Arabic of the time. But they didn't understand the Quran. The Quran says they didn't understand. They were Arabs. You cannot know better than Walid bin Mughira, those many poets, great poets who wrote great poetry that time. According to your own stories, do you claim that you know much better Arabic than they? No, but that their Arabic did not help them. Because the language of the Quran, in fact, the real language of the Quran is addressing to our aql. Therefore, it takes me to another verse in the Quran, 1736. وَلَا تَخْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. Do not stand by, do not follow, do not accept anything you do not have knowledge about it. إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا. إن السمع ear, والبصر vision eye, والفؤاد the heart relates also to the brain in the Quranic terminology. It is responsible what they are responsible what they are following. All of these are responsible. The Quran continuously asks us to reason, to use our aql, fikr, أَفَلَا تَفَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا تَدَبَّرُونَ. These three questions repeatedly asked. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, don't they reason? أَفَلَا تَفَكَّرُونَ, don't they think? أَفَلَا تَدَبَّرُونَ, don't they investigate, search, reflect? But Muslims have abandoned their reasoning by following charlatans and storytellers. The worst stories are hadiths. Hadith books have been narrated and compiled by the enemies of Prophet Muhammad. When I say this, I'm not saying this just for the sake of saying. I have argued this, I have debated in my books face to face against the top religious clergymen in Turkey and in also United States. But let me tell you, they escape from me. They escape, they don't come on TV debates. When they came, they escaped literally in front of millions of people. The head of Turkish religious affairs, the former head, Professor Süleyman Ateş, twice he escaped. He couldn't look in my eyes and have a Socratic dialogue, a discussion. He couldn't reason. قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ. The Quran says, bring your evidence. They couldn't. They don't have. And in fact, another verse says, whoever live, let him live ala bayyina, on evidence, and die on evidence. That's so important. The Quran invites the opponents to bring their evidence, their reasoning. It is incredible book that I think among all religious books, the book that quotes the opponents the most, 332 times, start by saying qalu, they said. This is the opponents they are saying. And Quran quotes them and then tells us what to say. In fact, more than 330 times, because they says, and then quotation continues sometimes a few verses. And despite that, Muslims abandoned reason, Quran. By this way, they traded hadith, fabricated hadith. Today I was on Paltal. Those who know me, they know that I am not sitting in my ivory tower as a professor, as a well-known author, written in Turkish and in English. I have many friends in academia, but I have decided that I will never sit in my ivory tower. Therefore, daily I spend hours responding emails, almost one by one. I try my best to respond those emails. And I go on Facebook, I deal with all kind of people. Some of them insult me, let them insult me, who cares? They don't hurt me, their insults. I'm not expecting anyone to kind of praise me and stuff. My reward is only from my Lord. I am doing this to appreciate God's blessing to me, which is the greatest blessing I had in 1st of July 1986, when God allowed me to accept the Quran alone. My eyes opened, I became a free man that time, a monotheist, rational monotheist, a free man. No more I will accept Pope between me and God. No more I will accept any prophet between me and God, because they did not want me to do. Prophets did not say, I am going to be a shafa'a between you and God. It says, all messengers of God wanted to eliminate the clergymen. They didn't want to put themselves between you and God. They delivered God's message. When they said, follow me, they said about the message. They never talk about their own wishful thinking. And messengers throughout history, they were opposed by the religious class, the clergymen. Moses, by those who supported Pharaoh. Jesus, by Pharisees, by Sadducees, especially Pharisees. Muhammad. Now some of Sunnis here or Shiites, they will go crazy. I say Allah, they don't care. But when I say Muhammad by his name, as the Quran tell me, in chapter 236, as in 383, chapter 3, verse 83, God tells us to mention prophets, messengers' name alone with their first name. It's not an insult. According to the Quran, do you think God tells us to say insult words? No. Of course no. Therefore, when I mention Muhammad's name, now some of them tune out. Oh, he doesn't say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They distorted the meaning of that verse too. I have a video clip on YouTube. You will check it. I have in Turkish. I think I have also in English. The Turkish videos you will see in parenthesis T means for Turkish, parenthesis E. If you want to search only my English videos, just put Edip Yuksel space in parenthesis write E. You will get those videos, and you can easily tell by just looking at the titles. And you will see more videos coming. One we'll have inshallah soon, two well done, professionally well done documentaries. One about Islamic Reform movement, the other about Code 19, which I know some Sunnis will go crazy now. They have allergy towards this number, as is predicted in the Quran 1400 or so years ago. Great prophecy, how people will react to this number 19. Exactly, with precision, it is predicted and it is happening. I don't want to make it longer, but share this video and other videos. Please share with your friends. And here I am also challenging all the Sunni scholars, especially those who are influential, to face-to-face debate. One of them would be Bassam Zawadi. He's a young man. He's not a scholar, well-read. He doesn't have really much follower, but I like his one page. He says, combat kit to use against the Quran only Muslims. According to this gentleman, he got really ammunition to kill us, to destroy us, I mean intellectually. Well, literally too, because according to his books, we should be killed. They killed my friend Rashad Khalifa, they stabbed him to death, and they celebrated, all the Sunnis celebrated, because according to their religion, which is anti-Quranic, a murtad, a person who leaves the Islam according to their Islam, which has nothing to do with Islam, even if it is Islam, according to the Quran, everyone has freedom of choice. No one should be hurt or oppressed or penalized because of their belief or lack of belief, or because they are getting out of this or in. But this gentleman is at least honest, reminds me of my early youth when I was Sunni zealot, promoting hadith Sunnah and risking my life trying to have a theocratic regime in Turkey based on Sharia law, Sharia, not God's Sharia, Sharia law that is rejected by the Quran in chapter 42:21, I think. Let me read these verses. I got this, my translation, Quran Reformist translation. It's also available in PDF online. I don't make money from the Quran translations. I have 2 Quran translations in Turkish and in English. I freely distribute them as much as I can in paper. I send to people around the world, but I cannot afford, especially postage is pretty expensive in overseas. But also it is available for free in PDF and Kindle also for nominal. Electronic version soon will, I think it should be available too. Page 21 says, they follow idols. And the translation really is not doing justice. Idols, it doesn't say Islam. It says they, do they have partners? شَرَعُوا لَهُم مِّنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهِ. They legislate, they create Sharia, fabricate Sharia in the system, in deen, مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهِ, that God has not given any permission for that, because it is God's system. مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينِ إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. Dedicate the system to God alone. The judgment belongs to God. ولولا كلمة الفصل لقضي بينهم وإن الظالمين لهم عذاب أليم. Anyway, I wanted, when I was Sunni, I promoting that kind of Sharia, the Sunni version of Sharia. Sunnis, in fact, is a religion. They call it sect because it's so different than Islam promoted by Muhammad in the Quran. They brought the Jahiliyyah tradition and ideas, superstitions, misogyny, violence through Hadith and Sunnah. Quran rejected them. They brought it by kind of changing the cover. They in the name of Muslims, kind of Muslim, supposedly Muslim names, they use few terminology and boom, they brought back all those rejected ideas or religious dogmas of Jahiliyyah. And this gentleman is that kind of following that remind me my days before 1st of July 1986 and the night that I accepted Quran alone after very painful investigation and arguments with Dr. Khalifa. He was in the United States, I was in Turkey at that time. And I will respond to this one. This is beautiful. I would like to thank him for providing us for a combat kit. And this guy also, Sheikh Muhammad Umar Ismail, the authority of Sunnah, a brief overview. They have volumes of books on this. I'm just did this one in order to go over it easily. And there is another one, Shah Shahidullah Faridi, the fallacies of anti-hadith arguments. They appear to be, I used to be misled by this because so much distortion is done. They distort the terminology of the Quran. For example, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the meaning of that verse they have changed. Therefore, if I don't say after Muhammad's name, if I don't say this one, they say, you disrespect Muhammad, we will not hear you. Or they call him, for example, Ummi. They distorted the meaning of Ummi, make him illiterate, which contradicts the Quran, which is an insult to Muhammad's intelligence or his goodwill. For 3 years, he dictates a book, so important book, the only book that he delivers to people, but somehow he's not incapable of learning 28 Arabic letters. Incredible. Or he promotes reading, writing among Muslims, but according to these stories, he should be promoting because the Quran says, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Anyway, but somehow he himself doesn't want to learn. Interesting. Why? Because he wants others to believe that he cannot make up the book. Somehow, if he become literate, the so-called literary miracle of the Quran will go down. In order to promote literary of the Quran as a miracle, this idea, the Muslim scholars made up lies, made Muhammad illiterate in order to make the gap bigger. How silly. If just Muhammad been a literal man, if it takes the buzz out of it, the importance of this argument, what kind of argument, silly argument is this? And as when I discuss with them, I know I am share this one with your friends. If you have universities, ask them. If you are in any university, if you are taking Near Eastern studies or Islamic studies, ask the professor to have this one, Quran Reformist translation, will provide you with the cheapest possible way that will not have a penny profit on it. You will get it. The cheapest textbook perhaps that you will have, it will be that one, and we'll be providing you with free PDF version. I will be providing you my email address. You can contact me anytime. And also challenge your scholars. Especially I invite major scholars who are Sunnis to debate with me. And some people talk about Zakir Naik. This guy is not a scholar, but he's a good debater. He's window dressing. He's attacking the others, other religions. He has some points, but he's also exaggerating certain points. But he has no idea what he's promoting. He's promoting a polytheistic, backward, misogynistic, violent teaching that takes people's brains basically in the name of Prophet and God. My dear friend, most likely if you are following this one, you are a very intelligent person, smart person. If you are in school, you are able to do, you are most likely literate, you are able to use the computer, and in your daily life, you try to reason, to use your God-given mind, to question. And if someone tell you a story, if let's say someone is working for you or a friend of you, tell you a story is an excuse for something, if that story is kind of a little bit out of normal, you will question that story. If someone tells you a story, a bad story about a friend of you or about you, you will get angry, you'll get angry. But somehow when a story told about God and prophets, especially by people who you are familiar with, if they have beard, the way you are exposed in your childhood, if they have a turban, the color, the style that you are exposed to, not like Pope stuff. Christians, they are exposed to something color here, white here, or certain kind of hat, a certain kind of behavior. They make smokes and stuff. They talk few other words with all kind of ceremonies. They relate to that. They are much receptible when someone in that shape, in that manner. You are also receptible if someone talk like a mullah, like a sheikh, like a so-called alim. If they look like that one, you will just swallow all the stories they tell you about God and His Prophet. Bukhari, 230 years after Prophet Muhammad, this guy collected his hadith. According to his own claim, from 600,000, he ended up with about 7,000. With most of it as kind of repetitions, we end up to 2,000 something. Let's say 3,000 hadiths. Basically, he threw more than 99% to the trash. Your religion is gone. Well, it was at the mercy of Bukhari somehow. Very interesting. Why the Quran, a small book, compared to the volumes of hadith books, was gathered, written during the time of Prophet Muhammad. There is another lie about that. When they burned the original Quran during Marwan time, they start fabricating stories. Oh, the Quran was not gathered until Osman. Big lie. These people, they established a civilization. Muhammad was considered as #1 in the world history for his accomplishments by famous American historians in his book, The 100 Greatest, because They were hard-working, serious people and supported by God. Do you think God could not put together his book before Osman? Muhammad was not able. He supposedly had about 100,000 people. They had city-state, multicultural, federal, secular state. Secular, I say, because the other minorities, maybe their number was not even minority. The Christians, the Jews, and the mushriks, the pagans in Medina, they accepted Muhammad not as a messenger, but as a leader. Therefore, he was a secular leader of Medina city-state, but also a religious leader as a Nabi, as a living prophet who must be obeyed by those who accepted him as a prophet. Therefore, Muhammad had these two roles. Incredible person, very accomplished, God's chosen human being as a mercy for humanity. And what he brought the Quran. And now after that, four caliphs somehow, for 30 years, they couldn't gather the Quran. It left to Osman. This is really serious joke. And then they even did not put together hadith, which without hadith, Quran would be what? At loss. We would not understand the Quran. Hasha. Which is against the Quran. The Quran says, لَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. 4 times repeats. We made the Quran easy for remembrance, for understanding, for as a reminder. Isn't there anyone who will take heed? God repeats 4 times this question in chapter 54. God says repeatedly the Quran is mubin, but those who wanted to trade the Quran with the stories of Jahiliyyah, the ignorance, the medieval Arab culture, and borrowings from Christians and Jews, to replace the Quran with those in order to fabricate hadith, to promote hadith, they said, no, Quran is not mubin. Is not clear, is not easy to understand, as the Quran says. Quran is not mubin, is not clear, as the Quran says. God is not the teacher of the Quran. Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran. No, it is we are the teacher, or Muhammad and others who are the teacher of the Quran. Quran is not mufassal as it says. Mufassal means detailed. It is the hadith that makes it mufassal. Quran is not tibyanan li kulli shay as it says, explaining everything that we need. Quran is not guidance by itself. Therefore, this gentleman is able to write this combat kit to use against the Quran only Muslim. This beautiful map, thank you very much. This explains how, this is basically the summary, how Satan duped Muslim and then separated them from the Quran, from their God-given reason. By hadith, Muslim, finally, it took about, in fact, more than several centuries. There were big fight. Those who got power in Umayyad and Abbas time, they were disbelievers, they were polytheists, but they called them Khalifa. They made up many stories to promote themselves. Even look at the stories about hadith, about Mahdi. They are all promotion of these dictators. It is their description. They either through pain people or some people in order to get acceptance or to get paid, they made up hadiths promoting these dictators, oppressors. But there were many, many believers that time. Unfortunately, they lost the power that time. And then it still took a while until hadith became accepted as a secondary source. During even Bukhari time, if you read the story of Bukhari, you will find that he was not really respected during his time because they knew that he was a fake. He was making up a Mishnah, Talmud for Muslims. There are many, many interesting things. Archaeology. Look at the old coins. It tells you very interesting stories supporting our position. It will go all over. I have discussed these issues. I highly recommend you to look at this Manifesto for Islamic Reform. In this one, I have a table comparing Hadith and Quran. And also in the beginning, I have a very brief summary of Hadith and the motives of fabricating Hadith. I want, before coming to this one, which I will come, it may not fit to this video, next video, but I want to share with you some hadiths. And then I will come why these verses that talk about obeying messenger has been distorted the following hadiths, by the follower of hadiths, as follow Bukhari, follow Muslim, follow this alim, follow that, instead of the Quran. They try to separate God from messenger. يُفَرِّقُونَ بَيْنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. They are separating God and messenger. They say God means Quran, messengers mean this hadith and that hadith. And there are so many problems with that. They are not even clear how many Sahih hadiths are there. They talk about mutawatir hadiths. Well, tell me, is there even consensus about how many mutawatir hadiths you have? They don't have. All lies. Lies, lies, lies over lies. If there would be a mutawatir hadith, means a hadith that a reasonable person should not doubt about the truth, veracity of that hadith, it should be the Hujjatul Wada, the last sermon. Because according to your own hadith and storybooks, history books, it was the most listened hadith, as opposed to one person supposed to listen 90%, more than 90% of hadith, ahad you call them. This is supposed to listen by 100,000, forget 100,000, let's say 50,000, let's say 10,000. Still 10,000 times stronger than ahad hadith. Not 10 times, not 1,000, 10,000 times. According to you, 100,000 times. And these most authentic hadiths, the most important, the last words of it come in three, not one, not two, in three different versions. In one of them say, I leave you Quran, follow the Quran, and you see it in many hadith books. Follow the Quran, you will be guided, which Quran, exactly the Quran says. For example, chapter 6, verse 19. And then another version says, I leave you Quran and my Sunnah. Follow both of them. Duality instead of Tawheed, one God, one source. Says, no, God plus me. I am kind of partner with God, Muhammad's Sunnah. And the other says, I leave you Quran and Ahl Bayt, my relatives, follow both. Another tasniyah, but different idols. In fact, in Sunnism, idols, there are more idols. They call it Quran, Hadith, Sunnah, and Ijma. And Hadith, Sunnah, and Ijma. These are three idols associated to the Quran. And interestingly, these three are exposed in the Quran. Sunnah in the Quran is always Sunnatullah. And all God's Sunnah that is valid among nations in human societies. When God sent a messenger, when messenger is challenged by ignorant people, by bigot people, God dealt with them according to that Sunnah. God had Sunnah, or God gives evidences, extraordinary evidences to prophets, to messengers, to show that what they are saying, extraordinary things about God, it is not just statements of their own making. It has authority from God. This is Sunnatullah. Nowhere in the Quran you find Sunnati Muhammad. Today I was discussing in Palta with few friends, and I was just testing. I opened a book in English, check whether I can reach some other people. You know, I don't want to live in my ivory tower. I am engaging with every kind of people, with ignorant, with educated, well-educated, from presidents of the countries to a person who is homeless. I don't make any difference among these people. Even I deal with children. Sometimes I love children more than adults. I even learn from children. And therefore, and then this gentleman came, says, you say Quran, do you believe in Sunnah? Yes, I said, I do believe in Sunnah. Believe that matter, not blind faith. I have a problem with the word belief in that sense. But I acknowledge God's law in nature and God's law in human societies, absolutely throughout history. God's law is the dominant. It doesn't change. It says, what about well, I'm not talking about this sunnah. I said sunnatullah. No, I'm talking about sunnati Muhammad. Well, I say it's not in the Quran. How in the world you talk about the Quran and you talk about a terminology in the Quran exactly as Arabic, which is mentioned in the Quran, and I give you verses, and I can give you the number of verses. I have it in my translation of the Quran, a reformist translation, and also here. And then now you say it is no, I'm not talking about God's sunnah, sunnatullah, God's law. I'm talking about Muhammad's law, Muhammad's sunnah, his kind of the way he behaved supposedly. Well, I said, what's your evidence? Well, the evidence is this hadith. And he started telling me a hadith follow my sunnah. I said, then why should I believe in hadith? Look how Satan put together things. Now he came up with hadith. Well, hadith is, we have to follow it as Prophet Muhammad. Didn't he talk, didn't he know better than anyone else? Which is another big lie. The Quran is not indexed to Prophet Muhammad. He was not the only one should understand. In fact, verse 3, chapter 3, verse 7, Ali Imran, they call it. It is about mutashabi, and those who are given knowledge, they can understand. And another verse also says, those who are given knowledge, they will understand even the multi-meaning verses of the Quran. But the majority of the Quran, muhkam, any person can understand. Understanding Quran, if it was indexed to Prophet Muhammad, God would protect Muhammad together with the Quran. I'm not talking about paper and ink, the knowledge of the Quran. And well, hadith. I said hadith in the Quran. Let's look at the Quran, what Quran says about hadith. I follow ahsan al-hadith, which is the Quran. The word hadith, whenever is used in the Quran, is always, when it is for the Quran, as a description of the Quran means words, or sometimes event. It is about Quran. When it's used for the Quran, it's positive. Ahsan al-hadith, the best. But when it is used for other than the Quran, it is negative. Very interesting. For example, فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Which hadith do they believe besides God and His signs? Signs refer to signs of the Quran, the verbal, which is a mathematically designed numerical code, and the Quran, which is also God's signs in nature. Which hadith do they follow besides that? Interesting, God uses the word hadith there. Or lahw al-hadith. Very interesting. And in fact, two places hadith refers to Muhammad's words prophetically, because God knew in the future the mushriks, the ignorant people will fabricate, the followers of the charlatans, clergymen, they will fabricate lies attributed to Muhammad, they will call it hadith. Therefore, in two places it's used for Prophet Muhammad words. In both places it is critical. In one, listening to it is criticized. Why you are listening to these hadiths? That means listening to hadith was not good. In other, distribution, sharing with others is criticized. Well, this is two elements to have a hadith book. One is you listen, the other you narrate others to others. Here it is, chapter 6, verse 19. Say, whose testimony is greatest? Say God's. Subhanallah. He is witness between me and you, that is the Quran has been inspired to me to preach it to you and whomever it reaches. قُلْ أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَكْبَرُ شَهَادَةً. Wow, who is the greatest witness? قُلِ اللَّهِ. Say God is witness. Not your alims, not this, not that. Not this Ravi, Bukhari. God. What is it? بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ. Between me and you. This is, the first audience to this is Prophet Muhammad. Of course. وَأُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ. This Quran has revealed to me. لِأُنذِرَكُمْ بِهِ وَمَنْ بَلَغْ. To warn you with this and to those that reaches. That means this is the Quran. Do you think God forgot to add hadith here? It mentions only the Quran given to Prophet Muhammad to deliver, to warn people of his time and to those who receive the book. بَلَغْ. أَيْنَكُمْ لَتَشْهِدُونَ أَنَّ مَعَ اللَّهِ آلِهَةً أُخْرَى. Do you think there is other gods besides God? God is witness, only God. And this is God's only word. that we have to follow, and you want besides God another, besides source Quran another source. أتشهدون أن مع الله آلهة أخرى. If you accept another source, you become mushrik. You say God is not enough. I need Muhammad. Muhammad rejects this idea. The very verse says, أتشهدون أن مع الله آلهة أخرى قل لا أشهد. Muhammad, tell them I do not testify to this. I do not support this. قل إنما هو إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون. I am far away from what you are associating partners with God and with God's word. It is interesting, it is not a coincidence, twice the Quran mentions قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم. Say, I am a human being like you. Twice to Muhammad says قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم. Say, I am a human being like you. And then in both of them says إنما يوحى إلي إن إلهكم إله واحد. I can find this verse, but I don't want to spend much time right now. And then after that says there is only one God. Interesting juxtaposition. I'm human being like you. Don't make me a God besides God. And here again, the Quran is given to me. It's not mentioned other. God does not forget. God's words does not mean. God says in chapter, I think 18, which is known as cave, because there are hidden secrets, mathematical secrets in that. Ashabul Raqim, the numbers, the people of the cave, is secret, hidden in the cave, and numbers, and the discussion about their numbers. There's interesting mathematical system hidden in that chapter. And in that chapter, and we see, that's, anyway, anyway, I want to go back to sharing with you some hadiths. One about God. I have in 19, I compared page face to face in a table. Quran, what Quran says about God and what hadith says about God. Messenger, or about cure and diseases, about women, about freedom and political structure. Let's read about God. According to the Quran, God is the initiator of heavens and earth. There is nothing that equals him. He is the hearer, the seer. Chapter 42, verse 11. Glory be to your Lord, the great Lord, far above their claims. Chapter 37, verse 180. God is most merciful according to the Quran. God does not expect from us beyond our capacity, and he does not wish to make the system difficult for us. Here is what it is said about God. In Bukhari, I'm going to only take from so-called 6 Sahih books of Sunnis. Shiites are no better. They're even in some way worse. God reveals the upper part of his leg to prove his identity to his messengers. This is Bukhari 97:24, 10:129, and commentary of chapter 68. I will not be really mentioning the numbers of the books and stuff in Bukhari. If you check it, you will find it in hadith books. If you don't find it, that's good. Thank God you reject them. You reject them. Say, even if it is Bukhari, I reject. MashaAllah. If you can do that once, twice, then you are closer to the Quran. But in order to accept the Quran, you will reject any other book, source, authority besides God's word. Even if you say there is one hadith, Quran needs it, you say God needs another word. Nope. Even if it is true, there are many truths in other books. Almost any, even fiction books have some truth in them. It doesn't mean you take it as a guide, as a source of guidance. As epistemology is the most important thing. When the moment you go to hadith book, pick and choose, some people came up with that. When this refutation of hadith became so powerful, they started giving up some, relaxing. Initially they would say, even a single hadith in Bukhari cannot be false. You cannot reject that. Every hadith is like Quran, hasha. And then when they found out they cannot really square them, they cannot fit to reasonable people, will not accept them, they starting compromises. So, well, we will pick and choose whichever according to the Quran. You couldn't say it. Then what is the purpose of wasting your time in that trash? Why? If it is in the Quran, already in the best, Ahsan al-Hadith, God mentioned, why do you need that? If it's not extra. Or if it is extra, then why you are choosing that one, not the other one? Well, it is up to you. That means your wishful thinking, your culture will dictate. If you are Arab, you will pick the Hadith, or I'm sorry, Arab, I apologize to Arabs. If you are kind of raised in a country that kind of a Salafi or a very kind of like Pakistan, backward religious environment, and because of your initial disposition as a child, you will pick this hadith because it fits you. That means hawa havas. You will pick according to wishful thinking, not according to Sanad. And with the Sanad, you have to accept all of it. You are not better than Bukhari, correct? And how do you know better Bukhari, which one is more siqa than the other, more reliable than the other? You study. Bukhari, according to your story, he spent all his life on this, and we see he couldn't manage. Now you will do it? How in the world you will go through the list of people? I heard from that person heard from his uncle from his aunt, and from this, from that, from this, from that. 200-300 years after Prophet Muhammad. Hearsay of hearsay, hearsay of hearsay. No decent court will accept this one, even for petty crimes. But you are following them for your eternal life. Goodness sake, a little bit respect to Prophet Muhammad. Biggest insults to Prophet are in those books. When I discussed with Robert Spencer, the enemy of Muhammad and Islam, basically Islamophobe, he's promoting wars. He was supporting the invasion of Iraq that ended up killing 1 million people, destroying many people wounded and many orphans, and he was supporting it. He was even promoter together with Horowitz of torturing people. They are dead, lunatic Zionists, crazy Zionists, and this guy, he is using hadith to assassinate Muhammad's character. His book became best-selling book, and we debated in 2 lengthy symposiums. Robert Spencer, Bill Warner, and a few others. Bill Warner is another guy, he's attacking, and Ali Sina separately. There is lengthy debate here in this book. Peacemaker's Guide to Warmongers. And this guy tried to pull me to hadith all the time. He started talking like Sunni, you need hadith to understand the Quran. Or hadith is so important and stuff. Then I destroyed his argument that I need hadith. I cited verses of the Quran. I showed contradictions in the hadith. I say, if you are a scholar, honest scholar, you choose this hadith, but you ignore the other one. Why? The same hadith that depict Muhammad as sexual maniac, as the one who married Aisha when Aisha was about 6 or 9 years old, let's say, according to kind of some hadith, 9 years old, or 12, 54 years old. And you pick that one, but you ignore the hadith says the Prophet Muhammad pointed at the moon, half of the moon fell this side and half to the other side of the mountain. Half of it in another narration says fell into Ali's backyard. Do you hear me? And this is, I said, this is basically a multi-standard, double standard. You cannot be decent scholar. And then he finally, but they lost. They cannot really have an argument against Islam, against Prophet Muhammad based on the Quran. He tried to distort some of the verses Quran, again using hadith and sunnah, the Sunni teaching like jizya. The word jizya has nothing to do a tax for Christians or Jews, has nothing to do. Jizya is a war repair. I would say, I'm sorry. If someone attack you and the aggressive party, after the war they lose, they will pay as a compensation. I forgot the word somehow on tip of my tongue. War reparation. It is not about a group of people because of their religion, and it doesn't also transfer to their children and children. This was distorted by those fake khalifas, those corrupt and oppressive dictators, in order to collect more taxation from people. And it is really against the core verses of the Quran say, La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Anyway, in this book, these people are exposed. Ali Sina is exposed. Please get this book somewhere. If you want a PDF, send me an email. But if you want the book, you can get the book from Amazon and other websites. And here it is, God. His identity. God opens his leg to show his identity. This is Bukhari. The longest narration in Bukhari involves contorted version of Muhammad's spiritual journey, which is in Isra is mentioned, but it is distorted as if Muhammad with his body went up to the heaven and got 50 prayers there, and Moses tells him that he cannot do, no one can do 50 prayer a day, 50 times of prayer a day. Every 28 minutes, one prayer. You cannot sleep, you cannot eat, you cannot do any work. They didn't have even an atomic clock to check exactly kind of the watches they have 28. They would look at the sun and stuff. Precision. They have to pray every time. It's impossible. And somehow Muhammad could not understand this. Somehow, according to this hadith, this longest hadith in Bukhari, God broke his word, says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. God does not burden a person beyond his capacity. This is beyond capacity of a human being. Muhammad was not Superman, as they claim. إنما أنا بشر مثلكم. And those human beings, they were not Superman as they think. And Moses was the smart one. Doesn't really take smartness. Even an elementary kid, when my kid in elementary school, maybe third grade, would understand that it's impossible. 30 times prayer. And Moses somehow is the smart one in sixth heaven. Muhammad meets him, and Moses asks him, he says, well, 50 times prayer is not possible. Muhammad go up. Muhammad go up, negotiates with God, gets 40 times prayer. And then comes down, Moses tells this is too much to up and down, up and down, up and down. This is story told, it takes some time. The storytellers, these are Sunni storytellers, they kind of love it, and those people are infantilized, they are idiots. Whatever stupid story you tell them, they swallow in the name of Muhammad or God. And then they tell this story at the end, Muhammad end up with 5, even Moses says this is even too much, Muhammad says I am ashamed. What a stupid story. God breaks his word.